When an air conditioner is not cooling, the biggest mistake is to start replacing parts without finding the real cause. A good HVAC technician does not guess. He follows a logical path and uses the symptoms to decide what to check first. The same complaint, the AC is not cooling, can come from very different problems. It could be poor airflow, a dirty filter, a frozen evaporator coil, a failed capacitor, a bad contactor, a weak compressor, low refrigerant caused by a leak, or even a simple power or control problem. That is why troubleshooting is a skill, not just a list of repairs. In this training, we will follow the way a technician should think when a cooling system is not performing correctly. We will start with the simple checks and then move toward electrical, airflow, refrigeration, and compressor problems. The goal is not to replace everything until the system works. The goal is to identify the fault with evidence. Before opening an electrical panel or testing live voltage, always follow the required safety procedure and use properly rated test equipment. Refrigeration work should also be performed by a qualified technician with the correct tools and authorization. One more important point is that different AC systems use different components and controls. A fixed-speed split system, an inverter system, and a package unit may not use exactly the same control method. So the technician must understand the actual system in front of him instead of forcing one diagnosis onto every machine. Once that mindset is clear, troubleshooting becomes much faster and much more reliable. The first thing to understand is the difference between not cooling and not running. If the indoor blower is running but the air coming from the supply vents is close to room temperature, the outdoor section may not be operating correctly, or the refrigeration system may not be producing enough cooling. If the indoor blower is not running at all, the fault can be somewhere else, such as the thermostat, control circuit, blower motor, capacitor, control board, or power supply. This simple observation already gives the technician useful information. Start with the thermostat and system status. Confirm that the system is actually calling for cooling and that the set temperature is below the current room temperature. Then observe what happens. Does the indoor fan start? Does the outdoor contactor operate? Does the condenser fan start? Does the compressor attempt to start? Does the breaker trip? Does the system make an unusual humming or clicking sound? These sounds and actions are clues. Do not immediately assume that a capacitor is bad just because the compressor does not start. A failed capacitor is possible, but the system may also have a control problem, missing supply voltage, an open safety switch, a failed contactor, a wiring problem, or a compressor fault. The correct sequence is to confirm the symptom and then test the parts that can create that symptom. This is one of the biggest differences between guessing and professional troubleshooting. A technician should move from simple observations to measurements. Visual inspection comes first, followed by safe electrical checks where appropriate, airflow checks, temperature measurements, and refrigeration diagnostics when the evidence points in that direction. The more accurately you define the symptom, the fewer parts you need to test. Airflow is one of the first major areas to check because an air conditioner cannot deliver proper cooling if the correct amount of air is not moving across the evaporator coil. Start with the return air filter. A heavily blocked filter increases resistance and reduces airflow through the indoor unit. That can reduce cooling performance and, in some systems, contribute to coil icing. But do not stop at the filter. A clean filter does not automatically mean airflow is correct. The evaporator coil can become dirty, the blower can collect dust, the blower motor can have a problem, or the duct system can restrict the air. Look at the supply airflow and compare it with what the system normally produces. If airflow is weak at several supply outlets, the problem may be closer to the indoor unit or duct system. If one outlet is weak while others are normal, the restriction may be local. Another important clue is ice. If the evaporator coil or suction line is heavily iced, do not simply remove the ice and continue operating the system. Ice is a symptom, not the root cause. Restricted airflow can cause the evaporator temperature to drop too low, but low refrigerant charge and other faults can also produce icing. This is why the technician needs more evidence before deciding what caused it. Also inspect the indoor coil condition without damaging the fins. A thick layer of dirt can reduce heat transfer and restrict airflow. The blower should also be checked when access is available and safe. A technician should never assume that a visible dirty filter is the only problem. Good troubleshooting means checking the complete air path from return air, through the filter and evaporator, across the blower, and finally to the supply side. When airflow is correct, the refrigeration and temperature checks become much more meaningful. Electrical problems are another major reason an air conditioner can stop cooling or fail to start. This is where a technician must slow down and test instead of guessing. A typical fixed-speed outdoor unit may contain a contactor, a dual-run capacitor, a compressor, a condenser fan motor, and electrical protection devices. Each component has a different job, and a failure in one part can create symptoms that look similar to another failure. Start by confirming the power supply and following the manufacturer's electrical diagram. If the system has no incoming power, replacing a capacitor will not solve the problem. If the contactor is not receiving the correct control signal, the compressor and condenser fan may never receive line power. If the contactor is energized but the motors do not operate correctly, then the investigation moves further into the high-voltage circuit. Capacitors deserve special attention because a weak capacitor can allow a motor to struggle, draw abnormal current, or fail to start. However, visual appearance alone is not enough. A capacitor can look normal and still be electrically weak, so testing must be done with a properly rated meter and according to the manufacturer's procedure. Always follow the correct electrical safety procedure before accessing components that can contain stored energy. The contactor also needs careful inspection. Burned or badly pitted contacts can create excessive resistance and voltage drop. But again, a damaged-looking contactor is not the only possible fault. The technician should understand what voltage should be present at each point before deciding what has failed. This is why an electrical schematic is one of the most useful tools in HVAC troubleshooting. Instead of memorizing random wire colors, follow the circuit from the source, through the controls, to the load. When the expected voltage or continuity is missing, the location of the fault becomes much easier to identify. The refrigeration side gives you another group of important clues. If airflow is correct and the electrical system is operating, but the space is still not cooling properly, the refrigerant circuit needs to be evaluated. A common mistake is to assume that low refrigerant is the answer whenever an AC is not cooling. Refrigerant does not normally get used up. If the charge is low, there is usually a reason, such as a leak or an incorrect previous service procedure. The technician should use the correct diagnostic method for the specific system rather than adding refrigerant based on pressure alone. Pressure readings depend on outdoor temperature, indoor load, airflow, refrigerant type, system design, and operating conditions. That means one pressure number by itself does not tell the complete story. Temperature measurements, superheat, subcooling where applicable, and the manufacturer's specifications provide much better evidence. A frozen evaporator coil can be associated with low airflow or low refrigerant, but the same visible symptom can have different causes. If the technician simply adds refrigerant to a system with a severe airflow restriction, the real problem remains. Refrigerant leaks also need proper detection and repair. Look for evidence around joints, service connections, coils, and other likely leak locations using an appropriate leak detection method. Never release refrigerant intentionally into the atmosphere. Another important point is system type. Inverter air conditioners can control compressor speed electronically and may behave differently from fixed-speed systems. Their diagnostic process can involve electronic control boards, sensors, communication signals, and manufacturer-specific procedures. So always identify the equipment before applying a diagnostic method. The professional approach is simple. Collect enough information to understand what the system is doing, compare those measurements with the correct operating conditions, and then decide what the evidence points to. Refrigerant should never be treated as a guess and add solution. Condenser performance is another area that can create serious cooling problems, especially in hot climates. The outdoor condenser has to reject heat into the surrounding air. If the condenser coil is heavily blocked with dirt, dust, or debris, heat transfer becomes more difficult. The system may run at higher operating pressure and the compressor can work harder. In very hot weather, this problem can become more noticeable because the outdoor air is already warm. The condenser fan is also critical. It must move the correct amount of air across the condenser coil. A weak fan motor, incorrect rotation, damaged fan blade, poor capacitor performance, or airflow obstruction can reduce heat rejection. But never assume that a fan problem is caused by the capacitor just because the fan is not running. The technician should first determine whether the motor is receiving the correct power and control signal and then test the motor and capacitor according to the equipment design. The physical condition of the condenser coil also matters. Cleaning should be done using a method appropriate for the equipment and coil material. Excessive pressure can damage delicate fins, so aggressive cleaning is not automatically better. Keep the area around the outdoor unit clear enough for proper airflow, while following the manufacturer's installation requirements. Another useful clue is the temperature difference and overall operating condition of the system. If the condenser is struggling to reject heat, the compressor may operate under more stress. In extreme conditions, protective controls may shut the system down. This is why outdoor unit inspection is especially important in hot regions such as the Gulf. High ambient temperature does not automatically mean the AC is faulty, but it can expose weaknesses that are not obvious under mild conditions. A good technician considers both the equipment and the environment in which it is operating. The compressor should usually be one of the last major components to blame, because many other problems can make a healthy compressor appear faulty. A compressor that does not start may have a power problem, a control problem, a capacitor problem, a contactor problem, or a mechanical or electrical compressor fault. The correct diagnosis begins with the conditions around the compressor. Is the correct voltage available when the system is calling for cooling? Is the contactor operating correctly? Is the capacitor within the manufacturer's required range? Is the compressor drawing abnormal current? Are the compressor terminals and wiring in good condition? These questions help separate an external problem from a compressor problem. Compressor electrical testing also requires careful attention to safety and the manufacturer's procedure. The compressor terminals normally have defined electrical relationships, and the technician can use appropriate resistance and insulation tests to evaluate the motor windings and possible faults. A compressor that is shorted to ground is a serious condition and normally requires further professional evaluation and replacement planning. A compressor that is locked mechanically can also show high starting current and may trip protection. But high current alone does not prove that the compressor is mechanically locked. Voltage conditions, system pressure, capacitor condition, and other factors must also be considered. This is where good troubleshooting becomes valuable. Replacing an expensive compressor without proving that it has failed can waste time and money. The same principle applies to other major components. Always test the cause before replacing the part. For technicians working with inverter systems, compressor diagnosis can be different because the compressor may be driven by an electronic inverter rather than a conventional contactor and capacitor arrangement. Manufacturer-specific procedures become especially important there. The goal is not to memorize one test for every compressor. The goal is to understand what the compressor needs to operate and then verify each requirement safely and logically. The fastest technicians are not the ones who replace parts the fastest. They are the ones who find the fault with the fewest unnecessary steps. When an AC is not cooling, think in a sequence: confirm the complaint, check the basic operating conditions, inspect airflow, verify electrical operation, evaluate condenser performance, and only then move deeper into refrigeration and compressor diagnosis. Use the system's symptoms to decide what to test next. If the indoor airflow is weak, stay focused on the air side until you have enough evidence to move on. If the indoor blower is normal but the outdoor unit is silent, investigate power, controls, contactor operation, and outdoor components. If the outdoor unit runs but cooling is poor, evaluate airflow, condenser condition, temperatures, and refrigeration performance. If the system repeatedly trips a breaker, do not keep resetting it. A repeated trip is a warning that needs investigation. If a capacitor looks damaged, test it correctly before deciding what else may have failed. If the coil is frozen, find the reason for the freezing instead of simply removing the ice and restarting the system. And if refrigerant is suspected to be low, do not charge by guesswork. Find the evidence and check for the cause. Good troubleshooting is also about knowing when to stop. High-voltage electrical work, refrigerant recovery and charging, compressor replacement, and other hazardous procedures should be handled by properly trained and authorized technicians using the correct procedures and equipment. The most valuable skill is not knowing the name of every HVAC component. It is knowing how those components work together and how one failure changes the behavior of the whole system. Once you learn to read those symptoms, your troubleshooting becomes more accurate, your repairs become more efficient, and you become a more valuable technician. That is the real purpose of technical training, not just to fix one AC today, but to understand the system well enough to diagnose the next one with confidence.